MAGA's years-long obsession with Jeffrey Epstein has finally backfired, and honestly, I'm surprised it took this long. Now, of course, we know Donald Trump and Epstein were very close friends, best friends, admittedly, from them both. There is photo and video evidence. We have records. We don't need conspiracy theories. But MAGA loves conspiracy theories and ignores the truth and all of that evidence. But what they were unwilling to ignore or be quiet about was their demands for an Epstein list, for the declassification of files about him, which Donald Trump promised to deliver. And today was supposed to be the day, but it wasn't, because we know what Donald Trump is doing. He's protecting himself, and MAGA just woke up to that, and they're furious, and we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into this breaking story about the MAGA Civil War coming up, I think there's only one way we could start a video like this, and it's with Jared Moskowitz.
I know is such an advocate for women's rights, as she mentioned, and is so concerned about grooming, and apparently we don't have any standards here anymore. Again, I just want to remind my colleagues, because, you know, I don't want them to forget about hypocrisy, okay? I don't want them to forget about hypocrisy. But, you know, Donald Trump was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, and when he was asked, he said, you know, Jeffrey likes him young. Well, how did the president know that? How did he know that Jeffrey Epstein likes him young? Perhaps some people are saying he was there, since you're so concerned, right? But again, I bring this up not to make jest. I bring it
Point
up,
of order, Mr. Chairman.
I bring it up. I thought we weren't going to interrupt.
We're going to stop the clock. We did this with Ms.
Okay.
Green. State your point.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the impugning of the former president's character. That
I don't have to do that. He does that himself.
Have we basically thrown that rule out? I'm just curious, or are we going to follow that rule?
Would you accept a pornographic photo?
Of Bill Clinton?
Yeah, we suspended the rule to the current president, but we didn't suspend it to the former president. But.
Oh, by the way, please, so you're making the point that we can disparage Joe Biden, but not Donald Trump. Please make that point to the American people.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, it doesn't apply to prior presidents.
It does not apply to former.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Listen, I won't talk about the photo and the 11 of them and the fact that he was on the plane and on the island anymore. What I will point out is the hypocrisy of today. The hypocrisy of today is you want to hold, you guys break the rules by not complying with subpoenas in the last Congress, and now you're shocked. You can't believe, after you broke all of that now it doesn't work. You come up here and talk about Hunter Biden's behavior, and you're so disgusted. But the guy that you all kneel to.
Like I said, the evidence has always been there. MAGA just wants to ignore it. They don't want to pay attention to the truth. They just want to come up with their own crazy conspiracy theories because they don't actually care. They just want something to talk about, some narrative to push, when in fact the real narrative would be a great reason why Donald Trump should have never been elected president. And it's the reason he concealed all the evidence, all the records they were so desperately after. And so when MAGA got their report, even though there wasn't much meat on that bone, yeah, they weren't too happy about it after being promised so much. It really seems like that's the theme of the Trump presidency, isn't it? Overpromised, underdelivered, or actually, in fact, less than underdelivered sometimes. And so MAGA got upset at Trump. I want to get into it all. Let's take a look. MAGA melts down over complete disappointment Epstein docs release. A rift emerged within MAGA on Thursday after the White House opted to hand out much-hyped Jeffrey Epstein documents to conservative influencers instead of sharing it directly with the public. Among those upset was Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, a Donald Trump ally who leads a task force that aims to declassify all the files related to the late sex offender. She called the release a complete disappointment and said she was not looped into the White House's release plan. This is not what we or the American people asked for, she raged, citing a New York Post article that said the docs would not contain anything new. Get us the information we asked for. The far-right influencer and one-time Trump confidant Laura Loomer, who did not seem to be invited to the White House with her fellow online firebrands, was equally peeved. She ranted Wednesday on X, criticizing the Trump administration for creating what was essentially a photo op on such a serious topic. Loomer and countless others said the administration should have declassified every Epstein document and made them available online, something Trump said he would look into during his campaign. Driving outrage is that those who received the coveted Epstein binder did not immediately share it with their followers. Emily Austin, a sports journalist who has recently been embraced by MAGA, went live on X to show her followers some of its pages to address the outcry. She pulled off the road to show its content, she said. Congressional Republicans tried to make light of their constituents' outrage, though. The House Judiciary Committee Republicans' official X account posted a link to what it claimed was the Epstein files, but it was really just a Rickroll video on YouTube. The comments under that post were filled with outrage, disgust, and a community note. "There's still time to delete this," wrote Ron DeSantis' staffer Christina Pushaw. Her response received over 500 likes in 30 minutes. Attorney General Pam Bondi said 200 pages of the Epstein files have been withheld from her by the FBI's office in New York. She penned a fiery letter to the Bureau that deemed the unredacted pages be handed over to her by Friday morning. So it wasn't just Anna Paulina Luna and Laura Loomer. We saw countless MAGA influencers online furious that what they wanted, they did not get. But isn't that the whole thing? Isn't that what Trump is all about? Don't y'all continue to fall for all of his lies, all of his promises that are eventually broken? That's kind of what you do. But my real thing here is that, they don't care. I know there is outrage. It's not real. If they cared, they would take one of the more prominent names, arguably the most closely connected name, in Donald Trump, and maybe care about that. But they don't. So I can't believe they actually care. Like that article said, they're kind of making light of it, of an actually serious and disgusting criminal. They think it's a joke. If they cared, Donald Trump wouldn't be their president. It is all hypocrisy from MAGA. It's hypocrisy when they say they care about something like this. It is hypocrisy when they say that they are against corruption and wasteful spending, but Elon continues to take billions of our tax dollars. It's also hypocrisy when they say they're pro-life and then vote to defund Medicaid to the tune of about $1 trillion. And that's what Elizabeth Warren was calling out MAGA for in this clip right here.
Since 2017, the opioid epidemic has taken the lives of nearly 500,000 Americans. Their families and so many more people around this country need Congress to come up with some real solutions. For example, I know that Chairman Scott and I agree on the need to close a trade loophole that lets China ship fentanyl precursors into the country uninspected, and it's time to put a stop to that. But as we sit here today, President Trump and congressional Republicans are working hard to advance budget legislation that would make the opioid epidemic worse and not better. They have proposals to cut over $800 billion from Medicaid, which is the largest single payer of substance use disorder services in the entire country. And why? So that they can fund tax cuts for billionaires. Let's be clear about this. Slashing Medicaid funding, either through per capita caps or backdoor cuts like work requirements in an area that already have work requirements, would mean ripping away health care from millions of vulnerable Americans, including about 1 million people right now who are getting treatment for their opioid addiction. So, Dr. Burnett, you've worked on the front lines of the opioid crisis. You have helped countless people overcome addiction. I want to thank you for your work and express my admiration for that. But tell me, in this budget space, what percentage of your patients rely on Medicaid for their treatment?
I would say currently about 80% of our patients rely on Medicaid for treatment. But,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in other words, Medicaid, as I understand it, is not just one option for how people get treatment. It is the backbone of the entire system for treating opioid addiction. Is that fair?
That's a fair comment.
All right, and yet Republicans are talking about gutting that system to the tune of nearly $1 trillion. So I'd like to look at just a little deeper level about what those cuts would actually mean for our country's battle against the opioid crisis. Two of the policies proposed by House Republicans are capping Medicaid payments to states and imposing red tape like additional work requirements. Dr. Burnett, can you just talk for a minute about how those changes would affect access to treatment if they were put into law?
Absolutely. I think there was a recent Kaiser Family Foundation study that talks about the work requirements issue, and that actually almost 92% of people on Medicaid already are either working or involved in some sort of part-time or full-time work. So the work requirements situation would just really add a lot of administrative burdens, ultimately resulting in people getting kicked off of Medicaid.
So I just want to make sure we say that again.
Yeah.
What proportion of people are now already subject to work requirements?
92%.
92%. All right, so adding more work requirements on top of this has what impact?
It would certainly increase the administrative burdens of keeping people on Medicaid.
That's right. And what's the consequence of increasing those administrative burdens?
They would lose access to their addiction treatment.
That's right. So people just can't get the paperwork filled out. More people fall by the wayside. I think that was the Arkansas experiment, as I recall.
That's correct.
Yeah. But there's another part to this as well. What about capping the funding?
Yeah, capping the funding would create two problems. One, it would definitely curtail the amount of choice that patients have relative to the types of addiction treatment that they would have. And then capping the funding would also create a network adequacy problem because more providers would disenroll from accepting patients on Medicaid. So patients would not have the ability to access treatment close to where they live.
Yeah. In fact, we don't have to speculate on what the consequences would be. In states expanding Medicaid, treatment for opioid addiction increased over 4 times faster than in states that refused the expansion. Meanwhile, Republican states that imposed so-called work requirements did not actually increase employment because that was never the point. Instead, opioid overdoses went up and access to treatment actually went down.
These are real issues. We have to stay focused on them. And we are on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.